Property cooling measure and the 13 impacts onto the Singapore property market. Hi, my name is Alan from Alan V Property. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the early morning of 27 April 2023, the government announced to introduce higher addition buyer stamp duty rates for residential properties in Singapore. What are the measures? What are the reasons behind it? How well will it affect you if you are a property seller? What if you are a buyer? Will there be any lobangs for you ahead? And lastly, I will discuss the 30 impacts onto the Singapore property market. Let's go. Firstly, let us go briefly into the cooling measure. The ABSD rates increase are as follows. ABSD rate for Singapore citizens is raised from 17% to 20% purchasing their second residential property. This means if you still want to buy a second property for investment, your addition break-even cost is a cool 24%. If you ask me, still can buy. Brother and sister, I will tell you this, bien bui liao, esai siu da liao. ABSD is also raised from 25% to 30% for SC purchasing their third and subsequent residential property, and Singapore permanent residents purchasing their second residential properties. ABSD is raised from 30% to 35% for SPR purchasing their third and subsequent residential property. Anyway, not many PR will buy second or even third property in Singapore. Next, the ABSD rate is raised from 30% to 60% for foreigners purchasing any residential property, and ABSD rate from 35% to 65% for entity or trust purchasing any residential property except for housing developers. This means foreigners are required to pay double the tax rate. Are they being targeted? Well, we will come back to this later. The ABSD rates for SC and SPR purchasing their first residential property, which constitute about 90% of residential property transactions based on 2022 data, will remain at 0% and 5% respectively. To understand the logic for the cooling measures, let me quote what the press release say. The implementation of the property market measures in December 2021 and September 2022 had a moderate effect. In December 2021, the government raised ABSD to 17% for SC purchasing their second residential property and other adjustments. Then in September 2022, the LTV was tightened to 75%. A 15-month debarment period for private homeowners to buy HDB resale flats. Yet, the market still churned ahead. However, in first quarter 2023, property price show renewed sign of acceleration amidst resilient demand. This is the URA Property Price Index for fourth quarter 2022 to first quarter 2023. In fourth quarter 2022, the quarterly increase was only 0.4%. But in first quarter 2023, the quarterly increase shot up to 3.2%. If we compare these two sets of numbers, the rate of increase is 8 times more. This is a huge increase. If we look into the number closer, the lender segment has galloped forward at 5.7%, whereas non-lender properties has increased by 2.5% in just a quarter, or close to 8% increase per month. Coming back to the press report, demand from locals purchasing home for owner occupation has been especially strong. And there has also been renewed interest from local and foreign investors in our residential property market. Here, let me take reference for my ERI research and market intelligence. In this chart, the number of foreigners buying private property in the outside core central region or OCR is not significant. Most buyers are Singaporean buying for their own stay or even for investment for the smaller bedrooms. As for the rest of the core central region, there is a higher percentage of foreigners since it is nearer to amenities and the city centre. On the core central region where most of the luxury condominiums are located, the percentage of foreigners and PR has seen a huge increase. The number of foreigners has increased from a low of 9.7% in 2021 to a high of 17.3% in first quarter 2023. This means that a higher ABSD did not deter them. They are attracted to Singapore as a safe haven, or what we are commonly known as the Switzerland of Asia. Let's zoom into the profile of the foreign buyers. Foreigners make up only about 10% of all transactions in 2022. The majority of them are from China, followed by Malaysia, Indonesia, India, USA, and others. Here, why is the government worried? As mentioned in their press release, if left unchecked, prices could run ahead of economic fundamental, with the risk of a substantial increase in price relative to income. With the influx of high net worth individual and family office and other foreigners parking their wealth here, Singapore has a good problem. But this problem could also lead to runaway prices and make property price unaffordable for Singaporeans. As usual, property is a hot topic in general elections. If they never manage it well, they will lose their seats. We have seen that happen back in the past election, when ministers are removed from their portfolio. Firstly, HDB, being a bread and butter asset class, will not be affected. However, any cooling measures are still measures. They will still have a psychological impact on buyers. For HDB upgraders that plan to upgrade to a private property, they may want to monitor the resale market for any distressed property. If they are looking at new homes, property developers may offer discount if sales volumes go down. For those planning to buy an executive condominium, or EC for short, you are not affected. EC will always be sought after in today's market. What about first-time buyers? You are safe. You are not affected. This is good news for you if you plan to buy a private property. Singaporeans looking to buy residential property principally for owner occupation. This measure is meant for you too. Singaporeans should be happy that the government has taken decisive action for a more sustainable property market. For those looking into non-residential properties, business as usual, but I'm very sure the government is keeping a close watch on this segment too, as prices have increased significantly. For foreigners under the free trade agreement, foreigners from the following country will be accorded the same stamp duty treatment as Singapore citizens. Up to 10% of the foreign buyers are citizens of the USA. Here, if you are a foreigner and really love Singapore and currently holding on to a green card, you should know what to do now. For owners that own luxury properties that is mainly targeted at foreigners, you will have to adjust your selling price attractively to attract Singaporeans, else hold on to them to the next cycle. For smaller bedroom resale units, they are mainly targeted at investors. I doubt any sound investor will pay 20% ABSD just to own a second property. I'd rather they put the money into a fixed deposit to generate a 3.5% risk-free return. Those sellers that over-leverage will face headwind to offload them in a high mortgage environment. What about the lender segment? Prices will remain elevated, but price resistance will set in. The en bloc market will freeze, especially those in the luxury market. Selectively, low quantum site with reasonable pricing will still move. What about property developers? Well, those projects that are targeted at foreigners will be extremely hit hard. CDL has already deferred its Newport residence launch to a later date. Those that are selling mass market condos may see a moderate in prices depending on the take-up rate. Developers may turn to building more 3 and 4 bedrooms instead of smaller units, which obviously will affect their bottom line. Lastly, what about those that have recently bought private properties? That really depends. If you have purchased a good solid project, you can continue to sleep soundly at night. But if you have purchased crappy ones, hold on to them tight, as you may have potentially paid near the peak of the market. In summary, the ABSD measures are targeted towards investors and foreigners. So basically, it's almost game over for them. However, this set of measures will have muted direct impact on the property market as a whole, as they still form a small part of the total transaction volume. However, it will likely send a very negative signal to the market, as it will likely remain quiet against a worsening microeconomic backdrop. Hence, I don't see price moving upwards in the near term and likely to remain flat or even go downwards. I also don't expect to see price crashing down as well, as this is never the government intention. Those that will benefit are first-time home buyers and Singaporeans looking to buy residential property, principally for owner occupation. In short, affordable homes for Singaporeans. Minister Desmond Lee, impressive performance so far. You're on the right track to become the leader of the 5G. Anyway, cannot play 99.1, cannot play reissue or option, cannot play buy under trust anymore. If you still have lobang to play, please share your ideas in the comment section below. That's all. Please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope you have enjoyed them as much as I do. See you around soon.